I wanted to get somebody on to talk about meat shortages. NPR just wrote this amazing story. I mean, I was worried about how to present this because I don't want you to panic and I don't want you to panic buy because there's no reason for that. This is a short term problem and it's going to cause a blip. But listen to this. U.S. meat supply is perilously close to a shortage, CEO warns. And it goes on to say it's impossible to keep our grocery store stocked if plants are not running. Blah, 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 blah. Nowhere in there does it say, hey, keep calm. This is a temporary, but it is a problem, but a temporary problem. And I want to lead with that. There's no reason to panic buy any meat, but we do have a blip coming our way. And I wanted to get somebody who, just is a common person who knows this stuff, but isn't some sort of highfalutin New York expert. It's Corbett Wall. He is a livestock market analyst, commercial cattle manager, and you can find him at his website, dvauction.com and nationalbeefwire.com. He's a guy who's grown up with this and watches this and gives a cattle report on his website. And he's been watching what's happening. We have plenty of cattle, not a lot of processing plants. And we welcome him to the program now, Corbett Wall. Hi, Corbett.
Hi, Glenn. How are you?
I'm very good. Welcome back to the great state of Texas, by the way.
You bet. Thanks a lot. Glad to be here.
You bet. I wanted to talk to you about something that you had in your last report. I watched it, and without panicking, you are pointing that there is plenty of cattle and plenty of auctions, but not a lot of places for the cattle to go.
Exactly.
Do you care to
this
enlighten us?
COVID deal has really scared and shut down these packing plants. The frontline workers that work in those plants, they work very close proximity to each other. Not so much during the slaughter process, but during the fabrication. Typically, they would be shoulder to shoulder, cutting meats up and working like that. And the fear and the outbreak of the COVID in those plants has just brought them to their knees. And not only is the sickness in there, folks are scared that they're going to get it. They're scared to come to work. They're calling in sick. Their kids are out of school. There's nobody there to take care of them. Those folks aren't making a lot of money. Then we come in with this help from the government. They get to where they can stay home, draw unemployment, get the bonus that comes with the unemployment, and then get their stimulus check. That's not far from what they were making working. So it doesn't behoove them to really come to work. And then on top of that, you got the unions coming in, which most all of them are union workers. The unions are taking advantage of the situation to try to leverage for more money from the packers.
So we have, 6,500 processing plants in the U.S.?
That's right, Glenn, somewhere in there. But a lot of those are very, very small. I'm talking about the big plants, that harvest, over 1,000 animals a day. And
so how many of those are there and how many are closed?
Well, I primarily look at the cattle. So the beef plants, and I got word that there's another 3 going down today. We're probably working towards a dozen major plants that are shut down from Souderton, Pennsylvania, all the way to Pasco, Washington, and all places in between.
And how many really significant plants do we have? What kind of dent is that putting into this?
That's going to be a huge dent. That's probably close to a third of the major beef plants in the United States.
Holy cow!
And we're definitely going to have a protein shortage.
So what does that mean? Talk to the person who's going to the grocery store. What does that mean, and when are we expecting this to hit?
Okay, typically, most consumers that go into the grocery store, don't have a clue where their food comes from. And we've just evolved to the point where folks don't have an Uncle Joe or Grandpa Bill that lived on a farm and they went and spent the summer with them. And now that we don't have that anymore with this last generation, they don't know where the food comes from. And it's been a proven fact that most of your school children in your major population areas, they can't draw a line from a cow to a hamburger and from a pig to a piece of bacon. They just don't have any concept of that. So a lot of consumers come in, they think that your meat is made in the back room of the butcher shop or the grocery store. They really don't know where that comes from. And they don't think about when they're out driving in the country and they pass by a pasture full of cows that that's where that comes from. But as far as beef, we usually consume about 80% of the beef we produce here in this country, and then about 20% of it's for export. But we're going to be down over 20% now, and so we're not going to have enough to feed ourselves as far as beef, and the pork and the chicken are right there too.
And so when should this hit? When will we start seeing this shortage?
I think we'll start seeing it in our retail markets probably by the end of the month, for sure by the 1st of May.
And how long do you think it'll last?
It just depends on how long this COVID scare happens. If we start to open things up a little bit and people get back to work, and then plant workers look around and everybody else is going to work, they're going to start going to work. If we could get the schools open, things like that. As soon as we get back to work, it's amazing how fast they can catch up. And so it shouldn't last any longer than how much longer the shutdown lasts from here on. But we're definitely going to be kind of short of product, and it kind of depends on how we approach it. It's kind of like a bank scare. You don't really have a problem till everybody thinks there's a problem, and then you've got a big one.
So what should the average person do?
Well, I would...
we don't want to cause a run on the bank, if you will, but we want to be able to...
I would buy larger cuts of meat than you typically buy. Take them home and portion them out in Ziploc bags. Use your freezer. Your meat lasts for a long time in the freezer, and do that. Pick dishes that uses meat as a complement rather than the main course. Like pasta with meat sauce and things like that, to be able to use it. But I think the awareness from the general public of where your meat comes from and how important our farmers and ranchers are is probably at a high.